This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Brian Peña. I always join the Vito podcast, the best podcast in the United States.
I was trying to get it out of here. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs. I don't get time. I don't get time.
And we are still not tired here on Bad Hombres. I am your host, Vito Jerome, alongside my usual sidekick and partner in crime, that is the Doc from Doc and Jock, John Charles McElroon. How's it going, Doc?
Vito, I got some news for you. I got to call you into a meeting. DSP has decided to go the way of Fox, the way of FanRag Sports. We're going to video only. And I don't know if your face can cut it if we're going to go to the video platform only. So we got to have a talk here. Tell me why I should keep you around.
Well, after I get my one tooth here fixed, will I be all right? Or is it about the facial hair or both? Or you just tell me, Doc, and I'll get it fixed for you because I want to please you, okay?
So you're saying you want to stick around?
I do want to stick around. As hard as that maybe, is to believe for some that listen to me and rip on you. But yeah, I do want to stick around actually, Doc.
Okay, never mind. We'll continue with the podcast platform. We're not going anywhere. Are you kidding me? As long as this project is going on, so far, we haven't cut anybody. One person has cut us.
Had to be cut, and really, she cut. So now that we said she
cut
I think
us.
You might know who it is, but yeah. Yes.
So far, so good. Since 2013, the staff that has participated, actually, we're inaccurate. One other person started with us as well and decided that the podcast venture was no longer.
Ooh, okay, was too good for us, pretty much.
Too good for us.
Yes.
But as long as somebody's wanted to do a podcast with DSP, they've been more than welcome. But I do want to get your sense of what do you think about this notion? And I think you saw a message I put to somebody else regarding why a lot of companies are going towards video-only platforms. Now, there's a little bit of debate back and forth, and what we're talking about is back in the day, now maybe 6 months ago, Fox decided that we're going to do away with writers, and we're going to go to a video-only platform. So when they did the numbers, it kind of looked like, in general, that the clicks were way down after they did it. But a report shows that people actually spend more time watching a video. On average, people are watching around 30 minutes of video each and every single day. And I can tell you that sometimes some of the videos we do get more hits than the podcast that we do in total. Just a 2.5 minute clip sometimes gets viewed over 2,000 or 4,000 times in a span of maybe 5 hours, whereas it might take a couple weeks for us to get 10,000 listens overall for an episode. So to look at it, I can understand why companies are looking at video-only platforms. And now recently, FanRag Sports decided that we're going to video-only because there is an avenue to do less work and potentially get more eyes on your product, which then can be sold to advertisers. A lot of advertisers are looking at video views and digital media as a way of potentially, advertising in terms of at least how many minutes people are seeing it. It still lives, as opposed to maybe people just, unfortunately, they just don't want to read anymore.
So advertisers can reach more consumers through video. Is that what is so enticing about going to video now and strictly video? I mean, for advertisers at least, right?
Yeah, you can see that potentially there is growth in terms of how long people are watching videos, how they engage with it, how potentially they can put their ads in a video as opposed to how do you put an ad in an article because people get distracted. They get annoyed by it. I mean, some publications, when I go to it, I just hate to see, I just want to read. And something I like about The Athletic is it's just a clean platform. You just go and read the article. Other outlets, I don't like to see pop-ups. I don't like to see videos. Like here, you can see me going up and down with the, volume here because I go to websites and sometimes they just start playing videos on their own. I don't like that. So if you're talking to a consumer, being me, I don't like websites that have pop-ups all over the place when you go to their content. And videos allow you to just click on a video and there it is. And then advertisers can put their message in beforehand or after, and it may stick longer than maybe in an article. But what do you think about FanRag Sports and Fox going to basically video-only platforms?
Well, because, you know what? They don't want to have to spend for these writers to write these lengthy, long-form stories, and then they're not getting enough hits or attention. Advertisers don't want to partner up with you when you only have that kind of content. And our attention spans aren't long anymore. The younger you are, including me, right? I have to throw myself into the mix. We don't read long form anymore. So long form journalism is dying at least a little bit, and there are still sites that attract to that kind of demographic and audience. But the thing is, to a large scale, I think it's more about video and what you produce with the video and how funny, how entertaining you can be through a video, and to reach eyeballs, to have maybe an additional reach than you could get through the written platform. So I guess that's why these entities are now moving in that direction. But the thing is, I think you still need written stories. If you don't have that written product, you're losing something, at least your credibility. And the optics of a site that only focuses on video, I think the optics are shoddy for that company, for that entity, such as Fox Sports, such as FanRag Sports. If they're truly going in that direction full-heartedly, I think it could be a mistake. I think it has been proven to be a mistake already for Fox Sports as well. And I think for other companies that want to go in that direction, it's a mistake. But the thing is, there are companies, maybe even Fox Sports, they don't have the budget to pay for all these different writers, such as The Athletic, which is now enhanced budget-wise because of what? Silicon Valley? Because they have all these big people that are paying all this money for The Athletic to thrive right now. And the thing is, the negative part of that is what happens when all that money is drained? Right? What happens to all those writers? Do they lose their positions? And is that why some of these sites and companies are pivoting to video and to video only, Doc?
And that's why I keep telling you, friends don't let friends primarily write. Look at you. You write, you do a bunch of different things, you podcast, you're willing to do the video thing. I think you have to be multifaceted and be willing to go with the flow because, just the strictly written portion is really tough to get over, meaning that it's hard to get popular, and those that do should start their own thing, really, in essence. I feel like being beholden to the man is really difficult. Look at a guy like Clay Travis, started his own entity, and he built up a following, and look at him now. He's an individual that's doing a lot of different things. So that's the model that most people are working with. But there is another outlet that writers have to potentially, practice their craft, and it's called The Athletic. And we've had Craig Custance, the Athletic Detroit's, in here, and he kind of talked about the subscription-based model. But one of their founders made some news, too. I want to read you this quote. I don't know if you've seen it. One of the owners, Alex Mather, co-founder, told the New York Times, that did a really in-depth piece about The Athletic and their model, "We will suck them dry of their best talent at every moment. We will make business extremely difficult for them." Meaning that one of the goals of The Athletic's co-founder is to potentially make it really difficult for newspapers to keep their people around by pinching some of their people day in and day out. And so he's saying that he's going to wait out all the papers to potentially, as you know, sometimes, go into some financial troubles. And he's like, look, we're going to go out there and we're going to make it absolutely difficult for them to keep their talent because we're going to suck them dry. And people are kind of like, whoa, that's a little bit brazen in that one of your goals is to potentially put newspapers out of business. And I say to myself, right now, it's an interesting model, one that has potential, obviously, since the Detroit Sports Podcast is similar. The difference is, though, there's a lot of venture capitalist money in this. So, again, I think you're fair to say that if you were to go out there and earn a bunch of sponsors, you would get a larger portion than you would at The Athletic because you're beholden, again, to the man. So, again, it's all the same thing. It's about revenue. You got to pay these venture capitalists back. They're not just going, you know what, I'm just going to give you $2 million to your company and good luck with it. No, they want their money back.
If you're not profitable, they're going to stop giving you their green, right?
Exactly. And so it's an interesting way potentially that, The Athletic is trying to, distinguish themselves in the marketplace by doing something different. I like their website. I like the subscription-based model, obviously. It's going to be fascinating to see once the venture capitalist money goes away or dries up, is the product going to be sustainable? And that's what's going to be yet to be seen. Because really, in the end, this is probably the last-ditch effort for writers and newspaper people to potentially stick with it because it's a tough business and one that's taking a lot of hits in terms of wondering, how are these companies making money? How are they going forward? Subscription-based models, to me, work in that from the ground up. That's what we did. We started in 2013, and we have support from sponsors, but we didn't start with support from sponsors. We started supports from those that just followed us. They kicked in $1 a month, and you just build that up, where now it's pretty good where we can give you, a little bit of funds. Not as much as I get, but I give you a little bit of funds.
A little bit.
Keep
mostly pennies still, but...
Yeah. but that's how it's supposed to go. The boss is always supposed to take the majority of the funds, right?
Yeah, you take from the peasants. Like me, I'm a peasant.
Yeah, right. Come on now. But at the same time, do you think that Mr. Alex Mather was a little bit brazen, trying to kind of maybe put himself right there in the crosshairs? Because when you open up that can of worms, you are now looking at potentially the newspapers firing back and saying, oh, okay, you want to go down that road? We'll just keep, I mean, I still feel like there's great local coverage in the Free Press and the Detroit News that I read and follow. I follow you, I follow Tony Paul, I follow Anthony Fennick, I follow Perry Farrell, I follow a bunch of people that do a bunch of work at both papers. And I still think that obviously in any field, things can be better, but for me, if it's free, give me 33. So, at this point in time, there's still so much free content that it's going to be fascinating to see how this athletic thing progresses.
Well, the thing is now that Alex Mather, did he say about sucking the newspaper industry dry and letting them bleed out profusely? Pretty much in so many words, right? He said that?
Yeah.
Well, nobody's going to suck me dry, okay? Also, letting these companies bleed out, that is pretty brutal, pretty brash. But you know what? You have to have that over-the-top mentality at times, right, to be in that kind of position where you're overseeing that kind of an entity. Now, he thinks that. And guess what? Others think that. They don't say that. Don't we even think like we have that mentality where we want to be number one and we're going to take everybody's talent? We wish we could. That's the Athletics model right now. And guess what? They're able to do that because of all those funds coming in. Right? Now, the thing is, when those venture capitalists start giving money and giving money freely to the Athletic, we'll see how many big names they can keep bringing in. Because guess what? Those big names are going there right now because what? They're being paid handsomely. Can they keep paying these guys handsomely? Because the way to get top talent, when you have so many different competitors out there nowadays, Doc, is by paying them a lot of money. That's why guys like Ken Rosenthal seriously signed on. Now, to write as well, because Fox Sports has ditched the written content portion of their website and gone in that video-only direction. Well, others, though, are primarily motivated by the money. And guess what? I would be, too. If you offer me all that money that is coming in from those venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, well, guess what? I'm going to take the money and run, too, and start writing for your website. So the Athletic right now is driven by that. But guess what? If these websites where you have to pay for subscriptions, if they start failing, Doc, what happens to the written industry, to journalism? Journalism will really, really die out. It's already starting to die out, isn't it? The newspaper print industry is starting to die out. So if these websites, too, where you're paying for reading these great writers, such as The Athletic, if these types of models for writers and for websites, if they start dying out, what happens to the finest journalists out there? Journalism will die as we know it, and more people will have to go into other industries. That's what scares me, but that's why you have to be multifaceted, right? That's why you have to be multidimensional. That's why I try to be multidimensional. And that's why you have to really aim for being as multidimensional as possible. If you're not a guy or a woman, right, that is willing to do video, is willing to write to maybe do a podcast, do some radio, willing to edit, well, guess what? If you don't want to do more than one thing, or let's say even two things, you're going to lose out in the long haul no matter how talented you are as a writer. Because just being talented as a writer, I don't think is simply going to cut the mustard seed anymore or pay the bills. Don't you agree, Doc?
100%. And I think we haven't talked about it, but you've never been formally let go from an entity yet, have you?
Not yet. Probably will happen, right? I mean, that's like the way of today. Everybody gets let go. It's like how we said on Tiger's Talk that managers are hired to get fired. Guess what? Writers are hired to get fired, and editors. I mean, people are cutting copy editors. How about those copy editors that do so much work to make the writers look good? Well, guess what? At the Free Press, they're letting go of guys like that left and right. Gannett has made that decision to outsource it. So people at the Free Press, other staffers at other newspaper companies throughout the nation are losing their jobs too, because these companies that oversee these papers are outsourcing these people's jobs because they want to save money, want to maybe even save only $1. But that's the time in which we live, right? In which people are trying to save $1, and these big companies are as well. And that's just even the scary thing about The Athletic. What happens when the money starts to dry, right? Starts to not be there as big as it is right now, because right now it's big time available, right? When it starts to dry out, starts to go away, what happens to The Athletic and these other websites that are built on that pay-for-play model, Doc?
Okay, so I'm proud of you. I mean, You're doing your absolute best to try and tackle it. I do wish there were more outlets that would really recognize the really quality work out there for writers, but in the end, that's what you got to do. It's just another hurdle.
It is.
And for you last weekend, you were able to cover, your hometown high school football team. It was really cool. I'm like, wait a minute. Vito's right there on the sideline. Dude's taking quality video. You recorded that video from Ford Field covering the De La Salle football game from your phone, right? It was high quality, and the pass play that was executed was unbelievable. Set the scene, because I feel like it's important to highlight the work that you did. I was really impressed. I was proud, and I did get to see a couple pictures of you in the stands, but next time you're at Ford Field on the sideline, just pass your phone to somebody, take a picture, because I know you're a Mr. Big Shot, and you probably will be there 50,000 more times, but it's nice to see you there. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, he's there, he's doing his work. And then on Sunday, it seems like you do a lot of work for the Horatio Williams Foundation, and you're doing some, high school prep basketball, seeing some potential recruits out there that are going to be doing some things. So set the scene. What'd you do over this last weekend?
Well, in another segment, another edition of things that I did that Doc was not invited to from this past weekend. Well, I went to Ford Field on Saturday to watch my alma mater crush Detroit Catholic Central in the Catholic High School League Prep Bowl, which De La Salle, I believe, hadn't been to and won since 2008. At least had won. So something else, a long gap in between winning that last one and this year's Prep Bowl at Ford Field. Lavish and the tremendous Ford Field confines that I got to experience, and just really take it all in. And on the sideline, you saw the videos that I shot using my phone, my lovely Samsung S8, Galaxy S8. Worked out tremendously. The videos came out clearly, I would say, and I got to witness a great quarterback performance from De La Salle junior passer Luke Fromm, who follows me. Got to give him a shout-out for that and for his great season this year as well at quarterback for De La Salle. De La Salle was highly doubted coming into the season. Missed out on the postseason last year. Coach Mike Giannoni has led them to the postseason and to become one of the top teams in the state of Michigan, specifically at the D2 Division II level. And they have Ferndale, had the chance to play for Ferndale, and we'll see how far they go. They got the district championship game now coming up, and we'll see how much further they can go after that. But they have the team, I think, to make at least somewhat a deep run, let's say, to reach the semifinals of Division II, and maybe to get back to Ford Field for the state finals at the D2 level once again. And moving on then to Sunday into what I did for the Horatio Williams Foundation at the Joe Dumars Fieldhouse on 8 Mile in Detroit. Got to experience some top underclassmen basketball players from all across the state of Michigan, and just something taking that all in and seeing who the finest players are that are up and coming and what they could become and what they, for some of them probably will become and where they will go, to the heights that they will go and to D1 colleges for some of them as well to play basketball at the next level. And you have some talent, definitely some talent capable of achieving those heights as basketball players too, Doc.
So what was your experience like? Did you feel like, wow, this is really cool? Were you really intrigued? I know you're trying to be professional, providing quality coverage, and you did via our platform at Detroit Podcast, via your Twitter platform at Vito Jerome. But what was it like being there on the sideline at Ford Field? What were you thinking?
Well, I've been on the sideline before, by the way. It wasn't my first time, so I'm no virgin when it comes to being on the sideline of Ford Field. And it was great to take it all in, to see my buddy Nick Schmiegel was there with his family. His brother Joey Schmiegel, a shout out to him, is in the DSL marching band, did a fantastic job. The whole entire marching band as well has looked great all year long, and I've seen them before perform, and they know what they're doing. They've got their act going on, and they're doing it in the right manner, and more power and much, credit to them and to their director, leading them in the right direction and making them look great. And you had Wi-Fi, too. That was great. It was better than it has been in the past when I've been on the sideline at Ford Field, so I got to give Ford Field credit for that. And I guess it was part of the renovations, or $100 million renovations at Ford Field, was to improve the quality of the Wi-Fi for everybody, specifically for the media. They're the most important people there, right? Forget the players, forget the fans. I'm just joking, well, at least joking a little bit there. But for everybody, right, to have that enhanced quality when it comes to Wi-Fi, well, you get that now at Ford Field. So really, you get the full-fledged experience of covering a game when you're there, even covering a prep football game, as I was. That was a big one in the Catholic League, final regular season game, and I enjoyed it, especially because De La Salle, my alma mater, came out on top and crushed, once again, Novi Detroit Catholic Central, which likes to be referred to as only Detroit Catholic Central. But guess what? They're located in Novi. Used to be located in Detroit. De La Salle, by the way, used to be located in Detroit as well by the airport. Now in Warren, now called Warren De La Salle. And I always love watching the Pilots and love seeing them be successful. And this year in football, they have been highly successful. And I wish them the best of the luck the rest of the way as well in this year's state playoff stock.
Now, what's your work that you do on Sunday with the Horatio Williams Foundation?
That is just covering the top underclassmen basketball players, and it is for what we are terming now as the Horatio Williams Foundation Premier Prospects Workout. I'm working on producing a publication for Horatio and the Premier Prospects Workout. We've had a few now training sessions at the Joe DeMars Fieldhouse in Detroit on 8 Mile. Great talent has come out. The parents come out as well. We've gotten some media. And now we have a media day coming up on November 5th, as well as part of this Horatio Williams Foundation Premier Prospects Workout and the talent that we have amassed throughout these training sessions, and more talent that will be coming for this media day, including upperclassmen that don't participate in these training sessions run by AW Canada, the former head basketball coach for, boys basketball at Detroit Pershing High School. And he coached Derek Nix. Do you know these names? Ready? Derek Nix, Keith Appling, Kay Felder. He's coached some big names there at Detroit Pershing. And guys that went to your favorite school, your alma mater, Michigan State University. When I say Derek Nix, you remember him, Keith Appling. Two really good standout players for Sparty in the past. So he's coached some talent. He really has. He's training these guys now for Horatio, and big time credit to those guys that have been showing up to AW Canada for training these guys, and big time respect for him doing so and doing it in a high quality manner as well. And you just got to give, as well, everybody credit, including these players, for being willing to show up every single Sunday, right? These guys that are willing to give their time on a Sunday, on their weekend, to improve as basketball players too. And that's what is needed, right? You got to train, you got to practice, become better, and they're willing to put in the time and the effort to get better, and big time respect to those guys that have been doing so far as well, Doc.
Anyone catch your eye that we should definitely keep an eye on, potentially, that has some skill in relation to basketball?
Jarvis Walker from Muskegon Mona Shores. His sister as well played there at Mona Shores, was Miss Basketball. So he's got quite the lineage, as well as his dad, who played overseas, was a very successful overseas basketball player. So you have guys like that. A big man, Owen Lobsinger. You have him as well. Matthew Nicholson goes to Clarkson. He's like a 6'10" big man, underclassman. Dana Holmes, a guy that has played alongside that Owen Lobsinger. So you've got guys like that. You've got a variety of talent, guards and big men that have come to play, have showed up to help out as well. Mark Rocket Watts from Detroit Old Redford. He's a 4-star junior. Watch out for him. Combo guard. Really good ball player. He's going to end up at a big D1 school. Maybe U of M, maybe MSU. So you've got talent for days, really, that has been amassed and has been showing up at pretty much each and every single training session put on by the Horatio Williams Foundation Premier Prospects Workout, Doc.
Very awesome stuff, sir. I enjoy your work. Definitely follow Vito at Vito Jerome, and you can follow us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast to see all of Vito's adventures on the weekend. This weekend, you will be in the Michigan press box covering Michigan versus Rutgers, the 4th place bowl, which everyone in Metro Detroit is calling it. And for someone like me, I'm definitely reveling in Michigan's struggles, but I'm proud of you for the work that you do, and you represent a lot of great organizations, and so far so good. You've been scandal-free. Unlike ESPN, unlike Barstool Sports, who have definitely been embroiled in some controversy in the better part of the last couple weeks. And we'll follow up with our chat from last week regarding the continued saga between ESPN and Barstool after this quick commercial timeout.
And as you know, Doc, Top Cat Sales is a proud sponsor of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. And Top Cat Sales, if you're looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or your corporation, then look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Their founder and former University of Michigan quarterback, John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel of the very highest quality and the very best service. So get your organization, your school, or your club team all in with Adidas today by emailing sales@topcatteamsales.com. Once again, the email address is sales@topcatteamsales.com. And remember to follow Top Cat Sales on Twitter @TeamTopCat.
And Vito, I definitely want to thank you for your work during the Top Cat Sales High School Coach of the Week poll. Great concept, great idea. Each and every week, you can go to our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com, and vote for your favorite high school Coach of the Week. And thank you to Top Cat Sales for sponsoring it. Monday through Thursday, you can vote for your favorite high school football Coach of the Week via Top Cat Sales. Thank you so much.
Scott Merchant from Chippewa Valley High School won the 5th Top Cat Sales Football Coach of the Week of the 2017 season, and the 4th Top Cat Sales Football Coach of the Week was for my alma mater, Mike Giannoni. So great results so far with that Top Cat Sales Football Coach of the Week poll hosted on DetroitSportsPodcast.com and sponsored by the DSP Network.
Yeah, we coming now. Come on. Yeah. That's right.
And back here on Too Bad Hombres, I am Vito Jerome, alongside my usual sidekick and partner in crime, that is the Doc from Doc and Jock. Yes, we have to talk about ESPN canceling Barstool Van Talk after only one episode airing on ESPN now. Well, it's been about 2 weeks, so you can say 2 weeks now. On Tuesdays, it was going to air at 1 a.m. in a weird time slot where you're not going to get a ton of viewers, but they got like 88,000, which is a really good number for that airtime. And Scott Van Pelt was on the first edition. I watched it, actually. I liked it. A little bit odd, weird, kinky. Can we use that word? Kinky a little bit and unique, but that's their brand. That's what they were trying to push.
So how did the show go? Were they talking to Scott Van Pelt from the van?
From the van. Inside the van, they got SVP to show up there on the side of ESPN in the van. It was quite incredible to see SVP, this high-quality on-air man, on-air SportsCenter anchor, go in there, talk with these guys, Big Cat and PFT, and it's different. You know, they approach sports and sports broadcasting a lot different than, well, a lot of entities out there. Maybe we try to take a little bit from them, but like we talked about last week, we're not as brash or over the top with the sexuality, maybe those kind of jokes and that kind of humor. But, I mean, they have a quality product. They do. And could you say it's a shame that ESPN only gave them one episode to prove themselves when that episode was maybe not high quality, but they got a good audience, good rating for it. For
when
that
you say
late
kinky, did they have a young lady talk?
Nothing sex. No, nothing really pushing the boundaries. But, I mean, they approach things in a different manner. I mean, they were talking about, like, they showed, I think, it might have been a penis to SVP, and they said, that looks like you.
Oh.
Like, you know, SVP in a sports center does where has SVP been? Something like that. And it shows, like, people that look like him. I think they showed a penis because he's bald, and they said that looks like SVP, and SVP just saw it and was, like, just shaking his head or whatever. But he went along with a lot of the humor, and more credit, you know, more power to him, because he really wasn't offended by a lot of it, and he was able to dive in there and deal with the jokes and the slights and all those jabs. And I think he did a quality job, and they did a quality job really interviewing him in that manner in which they do.
Had the show been allowed to progress, do you feel like it could have been a staple at ESPN? Do you feel like it was, you know, a situation that was warranted after what we heard regarding the outrage regarding Sam Ponder? Obviously, a lot of women at ESPN were highly offended and really upset that this show was allowed to air, that ESPN would partner with Barstool. And now there's a caveat, too, because I'm going to talk about it. ESPN now has been called hypocritical because they've been put in the crosshairs. A young lady just tweeted out from her personal Twitter account what it was like working at ESPN. And she said, look, you can bash Barstool for what they do, but why don't you look inward in terms of what you do? And I'll share a little bit about what she wrote, and it's really revealing about kind of the brash culture. I mean, Bill O'Reilly earlier this week, New York Times revealed that he paid $32 million in a settlement. Megyn Kelly's been reading emails that she sent to the company regarding men in power. So it's been really a whirlwind situation regarding the relationship between powerful men and others in the workforce. But in terms of ESPN, you knew what Barstool Sports was. How do you partner with them? Because I feel like a very popular wrestling podcast host named Sam Roberts wrote the perfect thing. He said, look, if you wanted to quell Barstool Sports, you made them more popular. You know what I mean? You now, you brought them on board. You gave them half an hour of airtime. Then you boot them out. That made them more popular. You give them more content. And ESPN looks hypocritical because of the fact that, you know, you dismiss Barstool Sports, yet in your own company, potentially there are powerful men that are doing some things against women at the same time. So it's a big mess for ESPN. That's why you have to make decisions. You know, I know you come to me sometimes about partnering with this person and that person, and sometimes you got to say, hey, well, you got to talk about it regarding about partnering with different entities and companies and things like that, because of the fact that you got to look 8-9 steps ahead regarding different situations. And ESPN failed royally. But do you feel like it was a mistake for ESPN to pull the plug once, you know, there was an uproar with a lot of the colleagues, with a lot of women at the company at ESPN that were really highly offended by partnering with Barstool Sports for a show?
Well, I'll say this much. John Skipper, the president of ESPN, should have known already the outcry regarding Barstool Sports and what they stand for and what they say about women, including his own on-air personalities such as Sam Ponder, who we talked about in depth last week on Bad Hombres, Doc. And what they had said about her was raunchy, was wrong, unethical, uncalled for, to say the least. Right, Doc? And Jenn Sterger, by the way, do you remember what she's known for in the past? For those Brett Favre dick pics that he sent to her when she was a Jets reporter.
She was the young lady that tweeted out.
Yes, that is her. And I guess you didn't refer to it yet, but yes, she's the one that tweeted this dismay out towards ESPN executives about their treatment of women in the past. And it looks a little bit dirty and now shoddy on the part of ESPN then. And you know what? Now, ESPN does look a little bit hypocritical, and you kind of were going at that. And you know what? I think the point is valid because they put Barstool Sports on the air, but there's probably some dirty, underlying stuff that has happened behind the scenes at ESPN in the past. And remember that there was that manly and that bro mentality in the past at ESPN. Remember, even in the book by James Andrew Miller about ESPN, about the history of ESPN, he wrote about how women were harassed and sexually assaulted or at least harassed back in the day at ESPN. They did not receive the most fair treatment, and they had to deal with sexist remarks towards them. So Jenn Sterger saying this, and she was brought to a strip club for a job interview. Is that what she is saying now about ESPN and the executives that interviewed her for a job in the past? That is sad and shoddy of ESPN. And I think that ESPN, as you already, I think, correctly pinpointed, Doc, has empowered Barstool Sports. I think Barstool Sports will gain even a further audience because of the fact that ESPN partnered up with them and canceled a show that Barstool Sports was putting on with ESPN after one episode. I mean, you knew what they stood for, and now by canceling them, you have those detractors from ESPN that are even naysaying ESPN more and going to follow Barstool Sports and what they are doing if they haven't already followed Barstool Sports and gotten into their brand.
So, in your opinion, did they make the right choice or no?
They made the wrong choice because you know what? I think you had to let this show, Barstool Van Talk, grow a little bit and see where they were going to go with it. Maybe after one season you cancel it, but not after one episode because once again, you have empowered Barstool Sports even more. And all those people that say that ESPN has this liberal bias, guess what they're going to say now? Well, they're going to say that even more now after ESPN canceling this Barstool Van Talk after only one episode airing.
Here's a little snippet from what Jennifer Sterger on Twitter wrote regarding ESPN. She wrote, "I was brought into ESPN numerous times for meetings and even tested for several shows. On one such occasion, I was 23 years old and had been brought to Charlotte to test. I was told by a coworker that everyone was going to a club and asked if I wanted to join. Then realized upon arrival it was not a club like I was used to, but instead a strip club. I was extremely uncomfortable by the situation and incredibly awkward as I had never stepped foot in one before. I had to watch as my male coworkers got lap dances from girls while they teased me about how I was uncomfortable and didn't want to participate. The following day, I was confronted by two of my bosses about whether or not I had been in attendance the previous night. I told them I had been, but didn't want to be there once I realized what it was. They admonished me and said it was wrong to be there and it was a bad look for the company. They fired me before my plane landed in Tampa." So she's out here and she shared a couple more stories regarding, interviewing with somebody who's a higher up that potentially just wanted to say he was with her. And she said that potentially she believes this higher up has been sharing that he was intimate with her in some sort of way so that he could brag to the coworkers. And she said this higher up is still there. So in essence, what she's saying is, ESPN, before you go out there and start admonishing other companies, why don't you look inside your own house before you point fingers? And it just goes to show you that really, in the end, women as sports reporters, women in the workplace continue to have really uphill battles in terms of dealing with powerful men. And you and I know, we joke around regarding your employment status and stuff like that, but we're always respectful to some degree. And I would hope that if other people would work here, that they would feel comfortable. But I can be honest, just working with a crew of guys, it is a little bit easier in terms of dealing with stuff. We can joke around, and I know that you're not going to sue me for sexual harassment.
Well, there's so much you can't say now, but you know what? What's the point of crossing the boundary, crossing the line sometimes anyways? It's pathetic. It's a pathetic attempt at humor at times, and you make these women feel uncomfortable, but guess what? You make men feel uncomfortable as well. They don't stand for that kind of stuff and those acts towards women that are sexist and it happens in the workplace way too often, and I believe Jen here, and I believe it happens in these big companies, and we've heard about it corporately at Fox News in the past. How about Fox News and what was happening there? Megyn Kelly had to come out and call out Bill O'Reilly, and guess what? He deserves it, every bit of it, all the criticism that he's been getting from numerous women. And it's sad that Fox News let him be on their airwaves for all that time with that big of a platform.
First of all, for Bill O'Reilly, damn, how much money do you want to spend on women? My goodness. I mean, you could have found one that you could have married and, given half your wealth to, but my goodness, $32 million to shut someone up? Holy camole, $32 million. Oh, man, Bill O'Reilly. And Fox News offered him an extension knowing that he paid it out.
How pathetic, how poor
That's piss poor,
Fox
man.
News is that. Big time. And Megyn Kelly had the right to go out there and read what she did, sending that email about Bill O'Reilly. And the fact that Bill O'Reilly is a proven sexual harasser. He really is that and deserved to be fired, but he deserved to be fired a long time before he actually got the can from Fox News.
What's super tough about Bill O'Reilly, he's out there full force defending himself.
Yeah, acting like he's the guy that's had the low end, right? At the low end of the totem pole, and that isn't being treated fairly. Come on, man. I don't feel bad for you.
But looking at his situation, though, I can understand people's situation where they look at it and they say, well, I would pay the money just to make it go away. But if I was not guilty of something like that,
that's what it is.
I'm always of the opinion that common sense would say, I'm defending it to the high heavens.
Yes.
I'm walking in court. I don't care how much time off of work. I'm going in there defending my good name. I'm not giving anybody that accuses me of sexual harassment a single penny. I'm going to go in there and defend myself. I'm not giving anybody $32 million one shot, then $8 million another shot, and then $10 million another shot. I'm like, that's a lot of dough. That's a lot of dough to be spreading around. And for Bill O'Reilly and Fox News, it's been a PR nightmare all around because of the fact that Roger Ailes was let go. A lot of sexual harassment allegations have been found to be true, and it's a super tough thing. It's a super tough environment to work at Fox News. Holy cow.
Who would want to? If you're a woman right now, who would want to work in that environment? Now, I know it's better. They've made strides, but how long did it take? It's 2017, and you didn't take strides until now? Really? It took way too long, and Bill O'Reilly, once again, should have been canned a long time ago. And if you're paying all that money, I don't care, because people will probably bring up in him himself, well, I had all that money to pay anyways. It's not a big loss for him in his pocketbook. Well, guess what? Still, you wouldn't pay that. You would fight it to the very end, to the bitter end, if you knew you weren't guilty. Guess what? He knew he was guilty, and I really feel for these women that have to deal with this in the workplace, even in modern-day America in 2017, when this should not be the case. But luckily, more and more women are going out there and speaking up about these men that have done these criminal acts and deserve to lose their jobs because of such criminal acts in the past. Because we can't have this happening anymore in the workplace. In modern-day society, women should be viewed as equals, right? There are laws in place that adhere to that principle. And now men have to come to the forefront and treat more women, or women on a much more consistent basis, as equals, because guess what, guys? They are, and you can't move past that. It is what it is. It is just a fact of life, Doc.
It is 100%. You have to treat people with respect, especially if you're a man in power. You have to know that potentially that any situation, you have to watch what you say. You have to be professional, and you can't bring sexuality into the workforce. But, it's amazing that ESPN has flubbed so many times now in the better part of the last year. They're taking hit after hit. As a company, they definitely have to surround themselves with good people, and they have to circle the wagons and figure out what's best for ESPN in terms of getting some positive publicity, getting some things, in order, coming off of 2-week suspension of Jamel Hill, coming off of now Jennifer Sterger and her messages, partnering with Barstool, the perception that they're a left-leaning organization, all the people cutting cords. It's a tough time right now for ESPN, and they have to definitely tread lightly in the coming weeks and months, because all I see is continued cord cutting, more layoffs ahead, and I don't know, in 10 years, ESPN might not look the same as we know it.
We can lambast for days about ESPN, can't we, right now, about all the negativity surrounding their brand, their company right now, and what they've done erroneously in recent memory. And really quick, I don't want to keep lambasting about, Bill O'Reilly and what he did, but he was crying wolf. He was like, feel bad for me and my family, what I've gone through. Really, man? Nobody's feeling bad for you and should feel bad for you.
It's tough, man. When it's multiple payouts, it's over the course of a long time, people are going to start pointing the finger. But he's gone on podcasts, he's started his own, and he's trying to defend himself. And I just haven't seen quality evidence that suggests that all these women lied about him. So unfortunately, he hasn't been convicted yet. He's paid all these women money, which sometimes in and of itself leads you to believe, well, okay, why didn't these women potentially come forward to prevent this from happening again? So I don't know if I like the whole monetization type thing of allowing this kind of system to take place where you can shut someone up with a bunch of money. I don't like that, because with that, powerful men are making a boatload of money, and they're just saying, you know what, shoot, if I have $4 or $5 billion, shit, 30 million to shut her up? I'll do it. No problem.
No big deal for them, right? For these
Right.
powerful, affluent men. And then
So
O'Reilly came back on air. He
if
was
you
on
want-
air after the
if
fact.
you want to solve the problem, maybe remove the whole monetization part of it. And in the vein of Harvey Weinstein, people just have to speak up constantly. Let people, because I believe the reason why Harvey Weinstein is no longer going to affect society this way is the word shame. He's been shamed in the community. He's been judged. This is where judging people can potentially do good. Is like, hey, you don't do that. You know, when you shame somebody publicly and you start revealing what they do in public, then people will change their behavior. This should have been done to Harvey Weinstein the first couple times that these incidents took place, with the hopes of possibly preventing, the next 20, 30 people from being victims. Unfortunately, I'm just advocating for people to speak up. If bad things happen and you feel like you've been wrong, definitely speak up about it. Now, before we get out of here, the last 10 minutes, we got to bring up the biggest topic that's going around Metro Detroit in regards to the sports teams, is that nobody is really attending Pistons games and Red Wings games. And the first couple, people said, well, in the prime sections where the TV catches the seats, people are maybe in the clubs, maybe they're having a good time eating the free food and the free drinks. Because if you, for those that don't know, if you buy tickets in sections 108, 109, 110, 121, 122, 123, your ticket price includes free food and free beer. Not liquor, but free beer. So people are saying, well, they're just going to the food areas and chowing down. But after the Pistons game versus the Sixers, and with Deadspin continuing to hammer on the Pistons regarding the attendance, the Pistons officially said that the first game versus the Hornets was a sellout, but Monday's contest versus the Sixers, the Pistons released numbers stating that on Monday, the Pistons had 13,000 in an arena that holds 21. But when you looked at the aesthetics, there were probably nowhere near 6,000 people in the entire arena. And people are wondering, like, why aren't they going? What's going on with the Pistons and Wings? The Red Wings are already complaining about the ice at the new Little Caesars Arena. Lots of poor reviews for the new LCA regarding the upper bowl, the lack of leg room, the steep nature of the upper bowl seats. So it's not turning out to be this whole positive PR train regarding the new arena for the sports teams that are inhabiting it. I went there. I paid good money for seats, and I loved it. But for the average family, sitting in the upper deck is not probably really enjoyable. To see a product like the Pistons, who lose, to a Sixers team that earned their first victory of the season versus them, you see the effort level. I don't see what the Pistons are selling for people to come, and for anybody to think that people were just going to shell out money after money after money just because it's a new arena. Maybe they were just a little bit naive.
It's too expensive for these families of four, let alone a couple going out on a date that, well, let's just say is any age, right? From any walk of life. But especially when you consider, hey, a couple that's just out of college, in college, a single man or woman that's in college, or just is younger. And then you have these families, obviously, when you have 4 or 5 people making up your family, or 6 people, 7 people in your family, in a big group outing, let's say that, it's way too expensive to buy seats right now, to buy tickets and to sit there in Little Caesars Arena, and then the product's not good. It's been piss poor. When your product's not exciting and not of high quality, or even middle tier quality, you could almost say that for both the Pistons and the Red Wings right now. Well, when that's the case, guess what? People aren't going to show up in droves. They don't care that it's a new facility, a new arena. And because it is so brand new and so darn nice, people are going to walk around and not even sit in their seats. And I can see why, because when the product's not great and your team's losing by 10, 20, or by 2 or 3 goals when you're the Red Wings, well, guess what? People have the right to move around and not to sit in their darn seats, no matter how expensive they are. But I think it comes down to the expensiveness of the tickets, right, as a whole right now, to buy the tickets anywhere in the arena. But also because, the lackluster product does not help out whatsoever either.
First and foremost, Little Caesars Arena is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful to go see a brand new arena. But that's the outside. The aesthetics, what's most important, though, is the seat you're sitting in. And by all accounts, the lower bowl seats are really high quality, super comfortable. The leg room, though, leaves a little bit to be desired because of the fact, one thing, though, Detroiters are fat people. I'm not going to lie.
Wow.
When I went to the wrestling event, literally the 5 people to my right and the 6 people to my left were really overweight. And if you're overweight and you try to go to Little Caesars Arena, you're going to feel pinched even in the lower bowl. So for the average fat person, I'll say that, it's not really the best seat in the house. You got, for you, dude, you can sit there in the lower bowl and have a good old time. You're shorter stature, thin, your average height and weight.
Wow.
Vito, but for someone like me who's fat and you know what I mean? You got to be, basically, if there are people that are fat next to you, you're going to be cramped.
Done. No leg room at all.
Vito,
That's what you're saying.
You would love the seats in the lower bowl, but if you're fat and tall, like if you're 6'2", 250, and you're muscular, you're going to be leg to leg with somebody.
So if you're a good-looking dude, you're 6'2" and 250, you're saying, well, you're not going to be able to sit in the lower bowl.
No,
in those high-quality seats.
I'm saying that there is a little bit of pinch in the legroom department. In the upper bowl, for sure. But in the lower bowl, I mean, for the nature of the people that reside in Michigan and Detroit, we're some
You
fat
call them
folks.
Michigan fat.
We're fat folks,
Where are you getting your evidence?
Visually, I
Back
walk
it all
outside.
up. Oh, just when you walk outside. The visual evidence from the naked eyeballs, huh?
My naked eyeballs, and from who attended the wrestling event, there was
Is
some
that just a
fat
bigger
folks.
crowd that gets into wrestling? You have to dive into that topic now? Does a bigger crowd, when I say stature and weight-wise, they just
I feel like
are more prone to get into wrestling?
Maybe architecturally, they could have did 19,000 seats and more space. I would have did that. I would have said, look, 21,000, let's just make it 19.5, keep out 1,500 seats, and let's maybe up the price a little bit to make up for the lost seats and give a little bit more space. That's all, because the average...
Somebody might have a big butt. There's a lot of people that have big behinds, too.
The average
The
Detroiter...
modern-day America, it's all about the big butt.
Yeah,
right?
the average Detroiter is probably 5'8", 240.
No, that's way overestimating it. Come on, man. Not everybody's that big. Not even close to that big. At 5'8", 240? Maybe 6'2", 240, 250, like you were saying earlier.
Am I wrong?
Retract to that. I think you're wrong and highly wrong.
Okay, well, at least some of the sports... Well, the sports fans...
Maybe the wrestling fans, once again, are that big. Are they that short, too? I mean, they're really they're not even stocky. They're more than... That's not even stocky.
So, but all kidding aside, I think that if they were to build it again, they would have did something different for the seats, because the upper bowl is too steep. People are complaining. You don't want to have this many complaints. I mean, it's
early
a brand
on
new
for a new arena. That's bad, right?
And listen, it's not just from podcasts or people calling sports radio. This is national publications. Sports Center's looking at all the bright red seats that are empty. Deadspin is just hammering because of the fact that the Illiches took public money to build the arena, and they're like, oh, look at this fine jewel you guys have built. You promised it was going to rejuvenate the city. You can't even put any asses in the seats. So it's a
big asses, apparently, too, in the seats.
The big asses aren't even coming.
No big asses are coming either. They can't fit in the seats, apparently, according to Doc.
If you look at the Deadspin articles, I mean, there's a sea of red, and that's a problem because, like I was telling you before we started recording, it's a situation where the brightness of the red seats you can see on television, it's a big, bright red eyesore for the entire city. So where are you, Metro Detroit? Why aren't you going to see the Pistons? But I think the answer is really self-explanatory. It's really expensive. You can probably enjoy a lot of games from the comforts of your home. Enjoy, Doritos, beer, pop, any food you want to make for, 1/10 of the price you would spend to park at Little Caesars Arena. So it's not enough to just have a beautiful building to bring people. You got to have, first and foremost, if you want asses in the seats, big asses, small asses, tall asses.
My small ass, tall asses.
Short
unlike
asses.
Me. Yep.
You got to put a winning product first and foremost, and the Wings and Pistons are not anywhere near winning for the better part now of the next 2 or 3 years. So you got to look at it. Metro Detroit has 3 pro teams, the Tigers, Pistons, and Wings, that are really right now in the lower half of the division in their respective rankings. We rest our hopes on the Lions.
The Lions of all teams. How hopeless is that?
For you, your first endeavor into Little Caesars, are you going to go probably to a Wings game or a Pistons game?
Well, see, I'm making pennies here, so how am I going to be able to afford to go to a Little Caesars Arena game for the Pistons and Red Wings? Come on, man.
You can get to a Pistons game for like $20. You park at MGM
What, do I want to
Casino?
see that product? Actually, I'm a bigger fan of the Pistons than the Red Wings.
Okay.
The Pistons are cheaper. They're cheaper, well,
Okay.
not product, but I'm saying, monetary speaking, for what I have to spend for a ticket, is it cheaper
I'll give you an incentive here on air.
Okay.
Close 2 or 3 more deals, and I'll take you to a Pistons game.
You'll finally take me somewhere nice.
In the upper bowl, though. We don't have
Trying to be nice and then downgrading it just a bit.
We won't have to sit and watch the game. We can just go like everybody else and have some drinks.
And just drink.
Just walk around, yeah. I mean, you'll sit there, you'll be like, oh, yeah, Doc, I'm probably going to fly out of this seat, and you'll see how everyone's cramped together.
So we got to
like,
drink. We're going to have to drink heavily to enjoy that product, too, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
So close 2 or 3 more deals, and I'll incentivize
2 or 3
you. 2 or 3
deals.
more deals, and potentially get them signed, Vito. I'll take you to a Pistons game on me.
Okay, very nice.
Very good?
It's taking long enough.
Yeah.
But it's taking long enough for these teams, like you said, to win. But it's a great, brand new, brand spanking new arena, and you can't fill butts in the seats. It looks bad. It's about the optics, right? And like the PR regarding it, the PR that the new arena is getting, now it's great in terms of, well,
And Vito, here's the stupidness.
like that.
Here's the stupidness
but-
of it too, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you got employees, right? You got ushers. They're like, hey, you're sitting up there. If you are an usher at the Palace and you see everybody in the upper deck and you see the lower deck is completely empty, just invite everybody down. Just like, look, fill it in, baby.
But they can't. They'll get fired. Right? It's part of their job. They can't just do that. If you don't have the ticket for it.
It should be a policy.
Okay, well, you make it a policy. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want. Do you want this negative PR? Do you want us talking about that?
Hey, they're ushers making dimes. Why do they care? Why are they
No.
supposed to care?
No.
But you're saying making it an arena-wide policy.
Tom Gore
Yeah.
should be looking at the game Pistons versus Sixers on TV going, what the hell?
There's no asses in those high-quality
I'd say
seats.
I'm making phone calls.
Yeah.
Look, the next game, if there are people in the upper deck and it's in the middle of the first half, it's in the middle of the first quarter or so, and there's nobody in the seats, start waving them down. Start filling in the seats. By at least the third quarter, you can then make the argument that potentially that people are late arriving or whatever. But you don't want big blocks of red seats showing for everybody on television. That's just a big problem PR-wise, and it's one that they're going to have to really resolve. And I don't think they're going to resolve it through putting a better product. So you got to figure out a way to get butts in the seats. That's their job.
So are the owners already waving the white flag? I mean, you said waving a flag to get the guys to maybe sit lower to make the arena look, well, I guess more packed and more full of people, but are we already waving that proverbial white flag with these teams in terms of we have to do that? We have to resort to that to get these people to fill up the arena, to make the arena look like it's kind of full, like half full. I mean, it's barely even half full at times for these Red Wings and Pistons games. And it's just a shoddy look on these teams for the new arena. When the arena is great, once again, the outside restaurants inside the arena, right? I mean, there's so much to do with the district and shopping and going to eat. But how about the product? It all starts with that. And you know what? You can't judge a book by its cover. It's been a small sample size. But I think what we know about these teams from coming into the season and what we've seen so far with these teams, the Red Wings have been kind of productive, right? And all right, better than the Pistons so far. But still, we know these teams aren't going to be great. So I think we have the right to call them out. You call a spade a spade. I think we can call out these teams, too, for having lackluster attendance numbers and for making the arena, the inside of it, look piss poor.
Yeah. So that's what it is. I hope that this resolves itself sooner rather than later because it's a big deal. People are talking about it nonstop. Great podcast recording, sir. I hope you enjoy the weekend. Thanks for filling us in on your endeavors. I enjoyed the chat, sir.
Enjoyed it as usual, too, with you, Doc, and I hope that all of you that tuned in to this fine edition of Two Bad Hombres enjoyed it as well. We'll talk to you again next Saturday.
If you've enjoyed this podcast that you've just listened to, definitely follow us and follow the other projects as well on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. You can follow the podcast at Two Bad Hombres. You can follow Vito at Vito Jerome. Check out our website. Support us for free, DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
Head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs. Oh, yeah.